What's going on, everybody? It's Sammy Guevara here. Yes, that's right, Sammy Guevara, one of the hottest young free talent agents of today's professional wrestling world. And if you're not familiar with me, it's okay. Real soon, everybody's gonna know. But for now, you, yes, you, are watching Wrestling with Regret.
You know, I love my Patreon backers. I mean, truly. I mean, the support they've given me and this channel over the past several months since I started the Patreon page has been nothing short of amazing. That support is why I'm here right now reviewing the American Wrestling Federation. I promised that if I hit a certain benchmark, I would review it, so here we are. But I feel like such a whore. The American Wrestling Federation was a short-lived league that ran on syndicated television from 1995 to 1996. It was last seen on this channel as the mismatched B-roll on WWE Unauthorized. The AWF took a rogues gallery of former stars from the glory days with some new blood sprinkled in and redefined mediocrity in professional wrestling. They tried to pass the company off as different and innovative, but all it did was make fans pine for the familiar and complacent. It was everything that sucked about Herb Abrams' UWF, only now with a round system. Just how bad was it? You're about to find out. In 1994, Chicago promoters Paul Alperstein and Steve Signore started up the American Wrestling Federation. Alperstein, who claimed to have made his fortune by developing what would become the ATM, was the sole financial backer for this new organization. Alperstein used his money to scoop up any and all available name talent. Now, in the mid-90s, finding any unsigned wrestlers with serious drawing power or upside was tough, since all those guys were probably already signed to WCW or the WWF. So, let's see who they got instead. Okay. Not bad. Yeah? Huh. Really? Oof. With a roster in place, the American Wrestling Federation and their Warriors of Wrestling series began airing in February of 1995. The tapings were always jam-packed full of people, usually homeless people who were only there under the promise of free food, but hey, people nonetheless. And I'll tell you, this audience was electric for every match, every wrestler, every spot. They were even cheering their heads off when they were sitting perfectly still.
What a tremendous matchup that's going to be.
Now, in fairness, it took me a while to notice there was crowd dubbing on this show. A much better job here than, say, Grandmasters of Wrestling.
Hails from Pacific Palisades, California, weighing in at 232 pounds.
Your announce team for the first part of the AWF's existence was Mick Karch and the Red Rooster himself, Terry Taylor. The backstage interviewer was Ken Resnick, who would later be joined by a woman named Chris E. I'm almost certain she wasn't actually a woman, but rather a $10 million marketing stunt by a robotics company.
We've got an exciting hour lined up. Tito Santana, our champion, will be wrestling, as well as gentleman Chris Adams. Jeff Gaylord and the Warlord are quite a powerful tag team. What a tremendous victory for the powerful tag team of Conan 2000 and gentleman Chris Adams.
Now, when it comes to calling the action, Terry Taylor is, how do I put this? He is the shittiest color commentator I've ever heard in my life. The biggest knock against Taylor as a wrestler was he just didn't have the charisma to be a big star, in spite of his excellent in-ring abilities. And that complete lack of likability shines like a diamond on this show. I gave Herb Abrams a lot of shit for his work on the mic in the UWF, but it's awesome compared to Terry here, as he tries so damn hard to be like Bobby Heenan, but completely whiffs it.
Speaking of foreign objects, look at that troll with the red hair.
Isn't he something else again to look at?
He looks good next to you.
Gentlemen,
Hey.
Don't ask for permission. Zapperstein's not going to answer you.
Alperstein.
Go to work. I wish you quit kissing up. You're starting to make me nauseous.
Okay, I'll make it like turtle soup. I'll make it snappy.
Hey, Karsh, how's it feel to know you're kissing up to Winnie the Pooh?
Easy, you'll hurt yourself. You want a throat drop here?
Is that a wrestling move?
But here's something cool I learned. It turns out that Terry Taylor is really good at doing impressions of famous wrestlers. Why he chose to bust that talent out here on this show, frequently and apropos of nothing going on in the ring, I'll never know.
And you know something, dudes? If I was in the ring right now, I could handle all these guys.
Hold it.
Oh, yeah. Onto the floor, yeah. Just when you think you have all the answers, I change the question. Yeah, I want to fight me.
You know, if he'd done that kind of thing when he was wrestling, he could have gotten over. Along with desperately trying to sound like the Brain, he also has a bit of Jerry Lawler in him.
I
wait a minute. He's kissing my girls.
Resnick, get away from her. She's mine.
You leave Chris E. alone. She's a very experienced broadcaster. She's going to do a great job.
Broadcaster? Oh. Who's the babe? Heck with Rico and heck with Valentine. She can take dictation from me anytime.
Ugh. Now, beyond anything else, the AWF is perhaps best known for pushing what they described as a revolutionary set of rules. They frequently promised that these rules would be strictly enforced. Because that's what wrestling fans want to see. Exciting maneuvers, explosive takedowns, rules! Everyone on this show spent an obscene amount of time hyping up these rules. Even the wrestlers couldn't shut the fuck up about them.
It's great to be here in the American Wrestling Federation where they finally brought the rules and regulations back.
So just what were some of these innovative rules that would change the face of wrestling as we know it?
If you get thrown or you throw your opponent over the top rope, you're disqualified. If you put your hands on the referee, and if it's Gary Grunke, why would you? Immediate disqualification.
That's it? Basically, Bill Watts era WCW? What's so special about that? TNA gave us a penalty box for King of the Mountain match. What makes these rules so unique and different?
What we have here is we have 3 4-minute rounds.
As you know, the American Wrestling Federation uses the round system.
We've got the round systems here, which I really like.
I'm feeling good about the round system.
Of course, the infamous round system. Known today as the format for any match involving GFW's Grand Championship, this style of wrestling has its origins in Europe. Because when I think of the American Wrestling Federation, I want to know that it's based on a European style. And if there's one thing I've learned from watching lots of AWF matches, I can tell you, the round system really sucks. See, in a normal wrestling match, there's often a nice ebb and flow of action. There's some faster points, but also some slower spots as well to allow the wrestlers and the fans to catch their breath. That can all be done in the context of one match in one go. It does not need to be broken up by rounds. There were some in the AWF who got what it was all about. Gentleman Chris Adams was one of the few guys on the roster who actually had experience in that style. Others like Bob Orton Jr. and Greg Valentine used the breaks to their advantage, getting a cheap shot in just after the bell to help give them a leg up going into the next round. That helps tell a story, but oftentimes the end of a round just meant the wrestlers had to stop what they were doing, whether or not it made sense. So in the AWF, you would get two things. You got a bunch of sub 4-minute squash matches, or you got a bunch of matches where the flow and pacing was killed off after every round. Every once in a while, the inverse would happen, where the obvious stars had long, competitive matches with jobbers. Oh look, Zach B. Swade and Tommy Duchelo are putting on a clinic with these guys. It's like a double down with none of the drama. It's a 2 out of 3 falls match where you might not know who's winning. Only in the rarest of instances would the breaks make for a good story, and even more rarely did it come down to the referee's decision. What I'm saying is, it doesn't work. Too bad that was the biggest thing this company was hanging its hat on, so with that important point established, let's move on to talk about some of the people involved in this show. The top babyface in this federation was Tito Santana. Here he is in the first episode of the AWF, receiving an ovation as if he were Hulk Hogan, the second coming of Jesus Christ, and a triple cheeseburger all rolled into one.
Weighing 239 pounds, Tito Santana!
And Terry, is there a more popular star in wrestling than Tito Santana?
Yes. Several, in fact. Don't get me wrong, Santana is a legend and a great worker, but I never would have pegged him as a top guy in this or any era. I suppose when all the other top draws are under contract elsewhere, you have to work with what you got, as the other babyfaces here included Sergeant Slaughter, Coco Beware, and Tom Zank. Or Zink. He's really good for your skin. Other names included Tony Atlas, Tommy Rich, Tom Brandy, and even Michael P.S. Hayes before he would become Doc Hendricks in the WWF. They also had Nails. Wow, good job avoiding that lawsuit, guys. There are even some familiar faces at the referee position as well. Billy Silverman, Bill Alfonso, and wait, Jesse Hernandez? Seriously, you can't escape this man! Much like its spiritual predecessor, the Universal Wrestling Federation, these big names in the 80s and early 90s rarely wrestled each other. For the most part, their opponents were some of the dumpiest looking jobbers on the face of the planet. These guys ticked all the boxes of what a 90s jobber looked like. The terrible hair, the bad physique, and the garish outfit that made it all look worse. If these guys were around today, fans would demand they get signed to full-time deals. The first 9 episodes featured a tournament to determine who would become the first ever AWF World Champion. Tito Santana and Bob Orton met in the finals, and the Red Rooster was all the flutter.
Let's get ready to rumble! I just had to do that one time.
Ha! You just got sued by Michael Buffer. The special referee for this match was Jim Brunzell of the Killer Bees, because I guess there weren't enough relics from the 80s signed to the company yet. Between that outfit and that posture, Jumpin' Jim certainly does not give off the impression he'd rather be anywhere else. This match was scheduled for a total of 12 rounds as opposed to the standard 3, but the match ended in the 8th when Santana knocked out Orton with the flying burrito. Wasn't that originally a derogatory term first coined by Jesse Ventura? So the match went 8 rounds, meaning there were 7 breaks in between. 7 minutes of time wasted that added nothing to this match. Think of some of the other classic bouts in wrestling history, like Hart and Austin, Taker and Michaels, Flair and Steamboat. Do you think those matches would have been better by breaking it up into multiple rounds? Do you think those Okada-Omega matches from this year would be more satisfying to watch if they had gone to the referee's decision at the end? The round system, the entire linchpin of the AWF, is a completely unnecessary gimmick. Smoke and mirrors to distract the fans from this cheap and boring nostalgia fest. What's the point of all this?
And I've seen the wrestling industry change dramatically, and I wanted to bring it back to the roots of its sport.
Ah, there it is, bringing wrestling back to its roots. That old chestnut that you've heard forever and a day. The UWF promised its fans the same thing back when they were around, and I've worked for tons of federations over the years whose mission statement was some variation of that line. Okay. Enlighten me. Which roots are you talking about? The golden era of the 80s? The territory days of the 70s? Gorgeous George? The Carney days? The days where wrestlers wore sheepskin trunks? Or maybe nothing at all? After all the evolution that the wrestling business has gone through in the last century alone, just whose roots are you trying to get back to? The idea of bringing wrestling back to the way it used to be has never worked out because wrestling never moves backward, and so every generation hates what comes after it. If you think it's some new trend when old-timers get mad at guys like Will Ospreay and Ricochet, guess again. There was a time when Carl Gotch was complaining about how that young whippersnapper Harley Race was killing the business. This is why the AWF failed, why the UWF failed, why so many indie feds fail. This obsession with taking wrestling back to a time you can never go back to. So friends, heed these words. Next time you hear some newfangled fed talking about how they're going to bring wrestling back to the glory days, run, because even if they can't get back there, they're going to burn themselves to the ground trying. Now, where the hell was I? The AWF produced around 30 episodes of Warriors of Wrestling before closing its doors in 1996 after it failed to make any money. By the end, Santana and Orton were the only 2 world champions, while Greg Valentine and Tommy Rich were the company's only tag team champions. They'd run a few house shows and plan on running a pay-per-view event, but that never happened. After shutting down the AWF, Paul Alperstein worked in the restaurant industry until his death in 2014 at the age of 58. In 2002, AWF manager Rico Suave, aka Steve Signore, turned state's witness in the corruption trial of Betty Lauren Maltese, then the Cicero, Illinois town president. Signore, a convicted felon with mob ties, testified that he had received tens of thousands of dollars from the city to run wrestling events, and was told by mob boss Michael Spano to give the rest of that money to Lauren Maltese. So that gives you just a little idea of the kind of people who were running this operation. I give the round system gruff, but at least these days, Global Force seems to be doing it better than how the AWF did it. The in-ring action's more exciting to watch, they work around the breaks better, they announce the winner of each round instead of keeping fans in the dark, and most importantly, they don't spend every moment getting in your face about how awesome and revolutionary the match concept is. Also, Josh Matthews is a huge step up from Terry Taylor. But even if the match style had potential, in my opinion, nothing about the American Wrestling Federation made them a viable alternative to the bigger federations at the time. The roster was made up of aging wrestlers who, though they're considered legends today, were almost never huge draws in their prime. Almost nobody knew how to make the round system an effective storytelling tool. The visual presentation was adequate, but the people calling the action were horrible. They also seemed to have occasional problems with quality control. Look at how this post-match promo with Johnny Gunn and Jim Powers ends.
What seems to be the strategy for your success?
Well, Chrissy,
Well, Jim, I'm sorry. We seem to be out of time. We'll have to get to that answer another time.
Are you shitting me? This was a taped show, and that made the cut? You couldn't do a second take where both guys get a chance to talk, not have one look like an idiot at the end? Maybe things would have been different if they were able to sign bigger names. Maybe if they made more money, they could have stuck around. Maybe the round system could have caught steam if they kept going. But at the end of the day, this stuff was just plain awful, and you can't spell awful without AWF. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, comment below, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.